Jewish Insights with Justin Pines on JBS is made possible in part by the clubs at Pearl River, New York, luxury rental communities for ages 55 and better, now leasing Phase 3 at the Reserve, and the B.L. Manger Foundation.
הנה מה טוב ומנועים שבת שחים גם יוחד הנה מה טוב ומנועים שבת שחים גם יוחד הנה מה טוב ומנועים שבת שחים גם יוחד הנה מה טוב
Shalom and welcome to Jewish Insights. My guest today is no stranger to JBS or this show. I'm thrilled to welcome back Dr. Elana Stein Hain, Rosh, Beit, Midrash, and Senior Research Fellow at the Shalom Hartman Institute, and the author of Circumventing the Law, Rabbinic Perspectives on Legal Loopholes and Integrity. This is her record 4th time on the show. Crazy, right?
Do I get something for that?
We'll see. Yeah, you get a mug.
Nice. Nice.
Which I think is a reflection of my deep respect and admiration for her. But this time we are also celebrating very exciting news. We are delighted to share that Elana is hosting a new show to be aired on JBS produced by the Shalom Hartman Institute called Texting IRL Ideas for Real Life, which explores how classic and modern Jewish texts can help us wrestle with the big dilemmas of our time. Elana sits down with guests who are accomplished practitioners in their fields, exploring how Jewish wisdom can guide us to act with integrity in the face of complex questions. That's a beautiful bar to set for ourselves. Okay.
Right? Integrity.
Yeah. We need that.
And those guests, they really have integrity. It's remarkable.
The show airs just before my show on Tuesday evenings, and like all JBS shows, you can find it on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Elana, welcome.
It is great to be here.
Welcome to JBS formally.
Okay, so the truth is, our last conversation was on video during the Iran war.
Yes.
So it's actually great to be here in person.
In America.
Legit. No, I did need a little bit of I would say, vacation from the Siren app.
Yeah.
Which I am thankfully getting while I'm in America. Even as, obviously, top of mind, still thinking about all my friends and family in Israel. But I did need that break. Right. So it's very nice to be not with the Homefront Command app right now.
Yes, and that puts things in perspective. I know everyone in regular Americans were like, I need my 2 weeks off or my 1 week off or to get away for a weekend in the summer, just to get away from their jobs or whatever they're doing during the day. And you're like, I just need a couple weeks away from the sirens. That would be great.
Right, just not in the shelter. Just not in the shelter.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And we're very excited, in addition to having you on the show, to actually be airing your show, Texting IRL in Real Life. Amazing name, on Tuesdays on JBS. Before we get to that, I know you've been on before. We haven't gone back. So
Let's
just
go back.
Introduce yourselves to our audience, because they'll be seeing you on JBS.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm Elana Stein Hain, as some of your viewers might say, the lady with the hat.
Yes.
Because that often happens to me. I would say something to know about me. I work at Hartman for the last 12 years. Before that, I was doing a doctorate in rabbinics with Professor David Weiss Halivni at Columbia University, Zichrono Livracha, a blessed memory. And I was also working at Lincoln Square Synagogue as the community scholar for 6 years. And 2 years before that, I was, it's hard to remember, resident scholar at the Jewish Center.
That's where I
all in
first
Manhattan.
encountered you.
That's where, exactly.
Right.
So I would say I have always cared, since I can remember, I have always cared about Jewish learning as an avenue for deep Jewish identity. Always, always, always. And my career has basically revolved around trying to provide a certain access to Torah and Jewish thought to people from across the Jewish spectrum. Because I think it's a joint heritage of all of ours. And that's actually somewhat of what we're trying to do with texting, because what we're doing is we're trying to put Jewish ideas in conversation with issues that are really getting in people's kishkas right now, and to actually use them as a stepping off point. I'll also say, there's other stuff about me. I love to make mosaics. You know, I actually realized recently that studying Talmud, which is my Torah study of choice, my tether,
sure.
it's my anchor to God, the Jewish people, to living a Jewish life. Talmud study is very much like a puzzle. And I said to myself, this is so funny. I love puzzles. Literally, I love puzzles. I love mosaics, which are basically small pieces. And I was like, oh, turns out those are kind of all the same thing.
Okay.
I have really great kids who I'm not really going to talk about on TV.
Okay.
Leave your kids alone.
Yep.
I have a really great husband who I'm not going to talk about on TV because leave your husband alone. But thank God we have we have a good life being part of the Jewish people in a very broad sense, and being able to engage with the Jewish people in a very broad sense.
Beautiful.
And
you're doing year 2 in Israel coming up. That's the plan.
We're doing year 2 because we had the opportunity, and we'll see. Meaning, we'll see what a second year feels like as immigrants. Because one of the things that I realized this year, I am an immigrant.
Yes.
Meaning, I speak Hebrew. My Hebrew is pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'm an immigrant.
Yeah.
So what does it feel like to be year 2 as an immigrant? Will be really interesting. Can we make better choices, smarter choices, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I'm excited. I think just deepening my kids' relationships, their Hebrew, just deepening those kinds of things. It's so valuable. I'm like asking myself, who at the age of 25 is like, wish we hadn't spent that second year in Israel. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
There's depth to it. There's real depth to it. So God willing, there'll be depth to it.
Great. I remember when David Weiss Halivni passed away, and I remember seeing you at the Hartman office that day and how sad you were. I know how close you were with him. Share us something of his, a piece of Torah or something that he taught you, please.
Okay. So every time he finished teaching a semester at Columbia, because I encountered him undergrad at Columbia, because somebody basically said to me, you love learning Gemara, Talmud. There is literally somebody who was known as the Eloi, the genius of Sigit, which is where he grew up. Meaning he was known as the genius because you could ask him any line of Talmud from anywhere, and he clearly had an eidetic memory. He was photographic memory. At the age of 7, people were giving him rubles or whatever the denominations were there. They were giving him money to tell them, the 12th time a certain rabbi is mentioned in a particular tractate. Like literally, they were giving him money to perform tricks. So I went to his class, and I was like, oh my goodness. Who is this person? And what is he doing at a university? Like, this is a person whose knowledge set is so deep, it rivals any yeshiva head in the world. He knows it all by heart. He just actually knows it all by heart. And one of the things that I really appreciated is how much he loved teaching. And he said at the end of every semester, he would quote a line from the Talmud that essentially says, it's more important for the cow to nurse than it is for the baby to be nursed, the calf to be nursed. And he's basically trying to say, like, you don't know how much it means to me that I'm able to share this Torah with you. Wow. And that was like, it doesn't get better than that as somebody telling their students that they care about them being in the room.
Yeah.
It was pretty beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not like he was the most sentimental person in gen, but that was a staple. It was just so from the beginning.
Right. I think we both probably relate to that a little bit, this idea that, like, once you discover Torah and how special it is, you have, like, this urge to, like, share it with others in some way.
And other people sharpen it too.
Yeah, of course.
Meaning the idea that you're not sitting alone with it in your head, but you're actually engaging with other people with things that you find to be valuable, and they find them to be valuable. It's like, oh my gosh, is it my birthday every day?
Yes.
what a privilege, what
Totally.
an actual privilege.
Totally.
So I definitely related to that. I mean, there was plenty of other stuff, but
Right. And you were bringing me back to
relate to
my
that.
my Ramaz days.
Incredibly.
I used to like be there 2.5 days in Ramaz middle school. I think I taught
Right.
every kid in the middle school. I think except for a lunch break, I basically taught every period 2.5 days. I think 20-something classes in 2.5 days.
Holy
and
cow.
it was crazy. It was amazing. It was
right,
like,
you were on adrenaline. You're just,
and I was just like, I was teaching character development, Musar, like, and just like meeting different
beautiful.
kids and like giving them a space to
That's a
discuss.
great
It was
thing for kids.
Yeah, and it was very special, and like I feel like that's amazing to just like be in that is very special.
Immersed.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the show a little bit.
Sure.
I have some reflections already based on what you said before, but just frame it a little bit more. What are you trying to do with the show? What are you mentioned some questions, dilemmas. Like, what are the types of dilemmas
Okay.
you're trying to understand? What could people expect?
Let's put a split screen up.
Yes.
Okay. One side of the screen. Oh, you can actually do that. One side of the screen. I always love like those metaphors. Like, no, you could actually do that. One side of the screen is like the stuff that is burning in people's kishkas.
Yeah.
So I'll give an example from the first miniseries. We're doing it in miniseries and taking themes for each one, which I think is really nice. So I'm calling big theme, cognitive dissonance. When like, I think that, but that also contradicts with that, and I feel that, and it contradicts with that. So some of the topics that we had for cognitive dissonance, we had progressive Jewish activists. What are they doing about their cognitive dissonance? The fact that anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism is growing in the ranks of progressives. Like, it just, you want to do your progressive activism, you care about the issues that you care about, and you're a Zionist, and you don't want to be strengthening that, you don't necessarily want to be partnering with that, and trying to figure out what you do there. So that's like in people's kishkas, right?
Just make that very concrete for someone. Let's say, give an example. Someone's a progressive activist. They care about the environment.
Let's say they want to work on, I don't know, labor union issues.
I was going to say labor union.
Right?
That's so crazy. It was in my head.
Well,
Sammy
I'm
Flax,
glad
if you're watching, I'm thinking of you. All right, go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sammy Flax, now I'm thinking of you too, and so is everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone Google Sammy Flax. Let's say you want to work on labor union issues.
Right.
But
And
the
there is-
other organizers are anti-Zionist.
Right.
So do you figure out how to work together and somehow keep certain things out of the platform or not? What are your limits? What are your parameters? Right? So like put something like, so that's for somebody who's in the progressive world, right?
Right.
Take somebody who, just a regular Jew.
Yeah.
It's like,
Is there such thing?
I don't know what to do. It's beautiful. I don't know what to do. I feel proud of being a Jew. I want to be able to bring my identity into public.
Yeah.
And I'm going places where I'm being shamed.
Yeah.
And not only that, maybe I'm even a Jewish educator. And I want to educate the next generation to have a sense of pride in who they are and what they are. How do I do that? I feel stuck, right? This cognitive dissonance, it's more feeling stuck, right? So you'll take things like that, or Jews on the right who are conservatives, but they're not happy with everything domestically that's going on, right? So like, what do they do with that, right? There's just a lot in there. Put that on one side. Those are burning in the kishkas. Put on the other side, Torah, Jewish thought.
Text.
There is so much wisdom. Not that it's going to say, do this, do it this way, right? We're not talking about Jewish law here. We're talking about ideas.
Yes.
But it's going to give frameworks like, how do we think about questions of partnering with imperfect partners? How do we think about questions of dealing with external perceptions and internal perceptions and confidence? That's all over Jewish thought. That's all over Jewish thought. And the question is, how do you bring those two things together? And I think bringing those two things together, the reason why I care about that is because I care about both things. I care about what's in people's kishkas, and I care about Jewish thought and Torah being something that is accessible. That is something that people say, oh, that helps me understand and think better. It helps me go somewhere with this. And I really think that we called it texting because it's such a non-threatening word. I think when a lot of people hear study or even text or Torah, they're sort of like, wait, can I access that? Like that's like for people who spend a lot of time. texting is like, and that also says something about the show, because I'm not sitting there by myself.
Right.
I'm bringing people on who are not Jewish scholars. They are Jewish practitioner leaders. And I'm saying, can you text with me? Can we actually look at some of these ideas, brief, accessible Jewish ideas, and do like a reverse funnel, right? Like you start with, here's a concept from Judaism, right? And then we talk about how this is playing out in the cognitive dissonance that you experience as a leader, and how are you doing it, and what are you doing, right? So it's how do you bring, it's really people together with heritage and ideas. How do you bring them all together? And that was the idea of the show.
Beautiful. I love it. I think I want to just pull out what you're saying, which maybe it seems obvious, maybe it doesn't, but I think that there are so many people who are entrenched in those challenges of the day and the things that are keeping them up at night, whether it's cognitive dissonance, that theme, or any other theme that's like really, they're coming up against. And I think that, first of all, some people don't think to look to Judaism to guide there.
Sure.
Right? Some people can't access it. Some people don't realize it as what to say.
Sure.
Right? And some people actually study Judaism and Torah all day and don't even think of it in terms of applying it there.
Right.
It feels like, oh my God, you're missing something there. And I think like saying to people, don't think of Judaism as like whether your spoon is kosher or not, and don't think of Judaism as like how many times you go to synagogue. There's a whole world of thought that happens in our tradition where people are discussing real questions and they're trying to get at the best versions of those, and those questions come back in generations over and over again, and they can help us, guide us, give us a framework for thinking about what's happening today.
Yeah, and I guess what I would say is there are different orientations towards Jewish thought and Torah. One orientation is an orientation of what's the law, right? What's my legal responsibility? If that's what I was teaching and that's what I was doing, that would be a completely different show, a completely different conversation. This is more of a philosophical orientation, which is what are some of the big philosophical questions, but practically philosophical. What are some of the big philosophical questions that have come up, right? So it's just a different orientation to Torah text. If somebody wanted to take that other orientation, that's a great orientation. It's just not the orientation of the show, because what the show is actually trying to do is it's trying to say, I have all these philosophical questions in the practical world, like how do we want to think about it, right? And that's the beauty of Judaism being a culture, meaning it has the legal aspects, it has the philosophical aspects, it has the cultural aspects, right? It has the historical aspect. There are so many different lanes, but this is the lane that I'm trying to inhabit. Not to say, oh, the Torah is telling you have to do this, but actually look at how, and especially I go to Rabbinic Judaism a lot, I go to Talmud a lot, because there's so much that's conversational there, and there's so much grappling there. The rabbis they're grappling with big questions. And I think we grapple with big questions too. And I find that helpful to grapple with them.
I'm going to put you on the spot again.
Of course.
I know you're a Daf Yomi person, or you keep up with what's going on in the Daf.
I do.
Give me an example. People I think just think the Daf just kind of, the people who aren't in it. Give me an example of like a recent philosophical question in the Daf. And what's at stake?
I'm thinking, let me try to think of one that's a little more general so that it's like fully accessible for people, okay? And this is a little bit less of I would say all of Tractate Avodah Zarah, right? And I think we talked about this when I was in Israel. I think we had part of this conversation also. All of Tractate Avodah Zarah, which basically just means idolatry, paganism, is trying to deal with the fact...
Tractate on
we have a tractate on paganism. Yeah. We have opinions about everything, right? But actually what it's revealing is that they lived in a world where, as a minority, paganism was such a big part of their world, and they needed to understand, how do I interact, right? So that is the big question of the tractate, which is, we're this little group, and the world around us is very different from what we are, right? So how do we engage it? And I think within that, you see lots of different pieces. And sometimes what I find to be some of the most rewarding aspects is to look at something that they were grappling with and ask, how do people grapple with it now? So for example, there are conversations in the Talmud about Jews and non-Jews and land in the state of Israel. Now guess what? still grappling, right? So you're looking at a Jewish and democratic state now.
Yeah.
In the Talmud, it's not a Jewish and democratic state. That's not what's envisioned.
Right.
And you kind of ask yourself, okay, so how do people actually make sense of the way they're grappling in the Talmud? How do they make sense of that today? Do they somehow incorporate the grappling? Do they sort of like downplay the way it's done there? Do they redefine who people are? But the idea of grappling with how do you engage with an other, that's real. It continues all the time. You know what I mean? So I gave this isn't texting, but I could give you like 3 different approaches to democracy from a religious perspective, all of which are going to mention that tractate and say, okay, what do we do with this? Like, how are we going to look at that?
Right.
That's real, right? That's real. You can talk about that in like a legal context. You can also just say in a philosophical context, do you look at the world vastly differently from the rabbis? You do look at the world, what's the continuum between you and the rabbis and their conversations? I think that's probably the most accessible one for people who are listening, like the kind of the biggest idea, like the biggest abstract.
Right, and I'll pause to note there as well. So people might think that the idea is you just kind of look up the answer in the Talmud, and you're saying it's not that at all, right? There's
if you're doing law, look up the answer.
Right, but if you're trying to understand what's at stake and what people are discussing.
And
right,
even obviously if you're looking at law, you're going to look up the answer, you're going to find a million different.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's philosophy of law as well, but a different kind of thing.
Right.
But I have to say, our new mini-series of texting that we're doing, in honor of the high holiday season.
Right, coming up on JBS.
Is Jews in the world. Why? Because what's in people's kishkas? They're like, oh God, what does the world think of us? What do we think of the world? So what do I want to do here? I want to bring in someone who works on human rights, an Israeli who works on human rights, and talk about Israel in the human rights sphere and space, right? And we're going to talk Torah that discusses the question of engaging in the morality of the world, how separate, how similar, right? I want to talk about how Jews tell their story to the world with a journalist, how Jews tell their story. And we're going to talk Torah about Jewish storytelling, right? And what it means, the kind of redemptive element of people wanting to hear your story, right? But we're going to get into how is it to try to tell Jewish stories in the public world right now?
Right.
What's the blowback? How critical do you want to be of your own Jewish story? How can you actually get out a Jewish story? Right? There's just a lot to go on the themes. And of course, I wanted that to be for the high holidays because I don't think people realize, but the high holidays on Rosh Hashanah, our liturgy proclaims the world was created today. Meaning it is a universal, right? The idea is everyone is judged today. God is sovereign over the universe. The universe. And then you go all the way to Sukkot, which is really the end of the high holiday season, even though it doesn't always feel that way. You go to the end of Sukkot, and even like the way that the rabbis interpret the sacrifices on Sukkot, there's like these 70 cows that are special sacrifices over the course of the day. They say it represents the 70 nations of the world. And even Zechariah the prophet says, in the future, everybody will keep Sukkot. There's a universalism to it. And in the middle there, you have Yom Kippur, which I think is much more intimate, particularistic. It's sort of like God's taking care of you. You have this, we can go, our Kohen Gadol, our high priest, can go into the Holy of Holies. Very intimate. So you have both the particularist and the universal, and I want to bring it out in this time when in our kishkas, we're very worried about it in a lot of different ways. We may feel betrayed by the world. We may feel judged by the world. We may feel defiant. We may feel, scared. There's a lot in there. There's a lot in. So,
Yeah. Who had mentioning a cow twice in one episode on their bingo card for today.
Can I tell you something? Stick with me. Stick with me. Cows will come up. Cows will come up and grain will come up.
Yes.
All these agricultural things that many of us who live in cities don't think about for a second.
Right.
But they're very resonant. They're very resonant.
Amazing. And I want to pull out one more thing, which, we talked about like becoming more aware to look to Judaism and Jewish like literature, text to inform our conversations. I would say, I think I focus on that a lot, but it's in a very different lane, which I think is interesting to notice. Like I remember when I applied for the Wexner Fellowship, like writing about how I felt like people compartmentalize their Judaism from their professional life. So like you would be, at the time I was a lawyer at a law firm, you would be a lawyer the whole day, you would leave your desk to go pray mincha somewhere and go be Jewish over there.
Sure.
And then you come back to being a lawyer. And I guess my question was kind of like how do you be a Jewish lawyer? How do you be a Jewish husband, a Jewish father, a Jewish friend, those kind of things? And like
sweet.
Very focused things. You're like,
it's very
so
sweet.
cute.
No, I'm saying it's like it's a very, there's a, like you said, integrity. There, you were looking for integration. Actually, it's not even just integrity. It's integration from integrity.
Right, and it feels very much like it was very focused on how to be in the world, interpersonal reactions, like kind of what's in front of you, if that makes sense.
Yes, the very immediate.
Right, and very much looking in the same way. What does Judaism have to say about this, right? I know what like secular books say about like patience and having a learning stance, but what does a Jewish book have to say about patience and a learning stance? And what does a Jewish book say about how to conduct yourself in a meeting, that kind of thing? So it felt very like, I don't know if I would call it philosophical. It felt very practical in some ways, but it seems to me like a similar theme. But you're taking in, I think my time at Hartman also like opened my eyes to this a little bit. So you have like beyond your home and your friends and your colleagues, can you like think about like the big stressful questions of the day and like bring a Jewish approach to those? And it's not only how are you going to interact with your friend when you argue, but now it's like how are you going to think about cognitive dissonance on a political level? Right.
You're talking about self-fashioning, which I think is more the Musar. How do we use Musar in English? No, but I'm saying
Jewish character development.
Thank you.
Sure.
Jewish character development. You're talking about character development, and by the way, it's not that what I'm talking about doesn't have to do with character. It's not just about my interpersonal relationship. It's being able to actually confront the issues that are facing the Jewish people that we're feeling in a deep way.
Beautiful. Great. And we'll add the caveat that like even the question of clarifying what are the issues facing is so, but yes.
Please.
But certainly cognitive dissonance feels like one that is pretty universal, and also this question of universalism versus particularism coming into the high holidays feels like a very big one.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Cool.
I just want to say, in terms of figuring out what are the big questions. So a few months ago, maybe there was a conversation about whether this was a real thing.
Yeah.
People discussing trying to rule legally on whether you can have cholent on Thursday nights because it's too close to Shabbat. And you should be able to have your cholent on Shabbat. Yes. And I was like, no, these are not the big questions. Right? Sometimes you can look at something and be like, nope, that's not the big question. But what we think are the big questions, I think, are heavily conditioned by who we talk to and where we are in the world. I'm talking to you as somebody who's like engaged with the world.
Right. I'll add a caveat on that also, because I remember the brief amount I've learned from the Rav, which I've mostly learned from my father-in-law.
Rabbi Soloveitchik, you mean?
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
No, I just don't know who knows what when they're listening.
Thank you. And my father-in-law, Dr. Yitzhak Goldberg, is that often in those situations, when they were clarifying like 2 points in the Gemara or like a halachic thing, and you're like, why is this at stake? That actually like the two sides, there's so much at stake actually. Like there's a whole world view behind why you can't have cholent on Thursday night or why you can.
Yes, sometime. I just think I'm more concerned with actual either legal problems or ethical problems. Yeah. I'm not super concerned with culinary problems.
Right.
That's all. That's what it is. Meaning, if this was a legal conversation, I'm in.
Right.
I'm 100%. I'm in.
Right.
But it's not a legal issue. It's not a legal issue. You know.
Maybe there's something there. I think there's something.
I have a friend. I give you a lot of credit for your optimism.
I know. I have a friend who's very serious about like being very careful about what he eats close to Shabbat on Friday. It's very much like
this is
cut it off at a certain time and like prepare for Shabbat. I think it's beautiful.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of a war.
Yeah. In fairness,
we're in the middle of a war, and the community where this was roiling.
Yeah.
Giraffe dodges.
Okay. All right.
You know what I'm saying? Do we need to go there? I'm just gonna
Ilana.
leave it there. Nobody should be eating children Thursday night because you should all be signing up for the army.
Or
learning Torah. But no.
Ilana.
I'm sorry. No. They should all be signing up for the army. Okay, we'll move on. Let's move on. Let's do this. We'll do another time.
Whatever. We don't have to go all the way there, but
Yes.
my take on that is that I think alongside obligatory draft should be obligatory Shabbos.
Oh my gosh, we cannot go here right now. Yeah. Let's go there another time.
Everyone has to keep Shabbat for 3 years. If everyone has to be in the army for 3 years.
Why? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for keeping Shabbat, but why?
Why?
What do you mean? You have to go to the army to protect your homeland.
Yeah, you have to keep Shabbat for 3 years to protect your people.
But what if you don't think that? Oh gosh, you're going to do this to me now.
As we can save it for our next talk. I'm being provocative also, obviously. But I think
let's talk about it another time when we can be a little more serious about it.
Yeah, and
just
because I want to learn some text with you also.
Let's talk about it another time when you can be more serious about it. But I do just want to say my bottom line is the army has to make it possible for Haredim to enlist, and Haredim have to enlist.
Yes, and we should look in the other direction. I think that
I'm not saying we should look in the other direction. I'm happy for people to keep Shabbat if that's where they are.
And keeping Shabbat is a paradigm, but the sentiment I'm getting across is more the idea that the future safety and security of the Jewish people in the state of Israel depends not only on weapons, and it also depends on, in my opinion, how we behave both in terms of between us and God and between us and our neighbors.
That's beautiful.
And I think that looking to Torah, as we are discussing right now, as a blueprint for how to do that, where one of those examples is the gift of Shabbat that we've received.
Legit.
Yeah.
I think where you lose me is where it's forced.
Right. But we're saying something else should be. I think we should be looking both directions. We should be asking more of everyone. All right. Anyway.
Another time. And yes, I agree with you. I think that the future of the state of Israel is not only dependent on weapons, and I do think it's between humans and God and humans and humans.
Yes.
But I do think it's a different conversation to have when you're talking about forcing people to do things that they don't.
Right. Well, that's what you're
Believer think.
A liberal American
Another
mindset.
time.
There you go.
I mean, I think I'm bringing a modern democratic mindset.
Yeah, that's fair.
Modern democratic.
That's one of the truths of Israel.
It's a modern perspective rather than a liberal perspective, even though liberalism is an important product of modernity.
Yeah.
But
all right.
For another time.
We'll have to
all right, let's do it. Should we?
Yeah, teach me some Torah.
Okay, so we're going to do a little bit. Now, this is not going to be perfect. We're going to do a little bit of sort of like a texting model for people so that they can get the vibe.
Flavor of the show.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different because I'm not. We'll see how practitioner-y we get, but I do want people to have a feel.
Great.
And the topic that I've chosen for today.
And I'm so lucky that I get to learn Torah with you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so lucky that I get to learn Torah with you.
There you go.
Right? Here we are, texting.
David Weisselivny.
Okay? Oh my gosh. What? I didn't even know what I had.
Yeah.
But anyway, so here's, the topic that I chose is control.
Okay.
Because I think, a lot of people are feeling like they don't have control over things that are really impacting them a lot. Mm-hmm. And so it might be they don't have control about what's going on in America. They don't have control about what's going on in Israel and the Middle East. They don't have control over anti-Semitism. They don't have control over what their kids think about Israel. Whoa.
Yeah.
They don't have control over, it could be personal illness, right? We can go all the way. But Yamim Noraim, the high holidays, there ain't nothing that reminds you about not being in total control like the high holidays. And it's an interesting thing. On the one hand, the high holidays does feel like you prep for it by trying to repent. Mm-hmm. There's a certain discipline. Mm-hmm. If you don't eat on Yom Kippur, you're imposing a certain control on yourself. And it makes it feel like you'll repent and then good things will happen.
Right, and there's a dedicated time. The month of Elul is like this time to ramp up.
Controlled.
Yeah.
Right? But at the same time, I think what brings a lot of people to synagogue on high holidays is a sense that we don't control everything. Mm-hmm. And you kind of supplicate yourself at the feet of the court, as it were. Mm-hmm. not even knowing how that works, right? Like, how does God engage humanity? What does God want from, right? But you come and you try,
right? It's kind of like, do your best, but the good news is at the end, everyone will be atoned, hopefully.
That's right.
Something
That's
like that.
it's I think it's very telling. Franz Rosenzweig was going to convert to Christianity, and legend has it he went into a synagogue on Yom Kippur. He said, "I want to convert as a Jew." So he went into a synagogue on Yom Kippur, and he saw people bowing on the floor, right? On the floor, and he was like, "How could I leave this? The sense of immediacy of God. How could I leave this?" And then he decides not to convert. And I think it's really interesting to consider that sense of, well, we really don't have a lot of control. And so I wanted to just talk about it because there are things that we can control. And I'm curious how the rabbis grapple with this. And then I'll probably ask you some questions about, like, somebody who's involved in media who, media, you don't have to say the word control, but it certainly influences the way that people think, things that people do, right? Like, in some ways, that's an attempt to control a narrative, right? So maybe to see where a little bit of that goes.
Great.
So I'll tell you the text that I chose for today, okay? The text that I chose for today is what we might call, I forget the name of the game. There was a game like this. It's essentially scales. Like if you imagine the scales of justice.
Yeah.
And the way that the rabbis talk about
your
it.
Your games are different than my games. They're just like NBA Jam.
There was no betting. There was no betting.
No, I didn't mean betting.
I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
I'm like, what game had scales? That
Sounds
like a nerdy game. No offense.
I
was a nerd too. I just didn't realize. But
I was. Had we met a long time ago, we might not have been friends.
100%.
I don't know.
I was friends with everyone.
So okay, you're still kind.
Yes.
Even if you're not a nerd, you're still kind. So
by the way, it turns out I'm a nerd, obviously.
It turns out you're a nerd.
Yeah, but I was playing the non-nerd.
It took you a while. It took you a while to get there.
Yeah.
So this is Tractate Kiddushin.
Yeah.
40b.
Yeah.
And it goes like this. Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, says, because the world, and just listen to all the assumptions here, because the world is judged by the majority of its actions, and the individual is judged by the majority of their actions, asa mitzvah achat, if a person does one mitzvah, one commandment, ashrav, praiseworthy is that person. Why? Because what have they just done? Imagine everything is by the majority. Because what they've done is they've now tilted the scales for themselves and for the whole world to the side of merit. But avar averachat, but if they did one transgression, then oilo. I don't think I need to translate oi, right? Oi, because they've tipped themselves to the guilty side and the whole world to the guilty side. And it's literally, they quote a verse that basically says one sinner, and I think they're really turning it into one sin, can destroy a lot of good, okay? That's what it is. So I want us to just think of the visual, okay? The world is equal at any moment. And you do something good, you tip it for good. You do something bad, you tip it for bad. So what does this image say to you about control, lack of control? What does it say to you?
Sure, and it's making me think of lots of related texts also. And also, the ones I'm thinking of are very personal, and this is very global, which is very interesting. We're back to personal.
Always global. Always global.
Always global. It's giving a lot of weight to the actions of the individual. It's saying that you basically can tip the scales of the universe by one step in this direction or one step in that direction.
Okay, but can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Let's say I think, I don't know, poverty is like a big problem.
Yeah.
Am I gonna fix that by giving charity to one person? Right? It doesn't talk about systemic.
Right.
It doesn't talk about systemic problems. It's kind of just quantitative, right? It's like Just add more. But there's something about it that is not letting you off the hook. Because to be honest, I actually think the most provocative part of this is the idea that the world would be balanced at any one point.
Yeah, I was wondering that also.
Right? Meaning it's provocative. I think it's provocative for two reasons. One reason I think it's provocative is because it's basically saying, you know, sometimes we like to look at the world and say, the world is all garbage.
Yeah.
It's not. Meaning, even that, just the idea that it was, think about all of humanity. It's balanced.
Right.
Right? There's an assumption that there's a lot of bad going on in the world. And also a lot of good. That alone, you know when people say, are you a glass half full, a glass half empty?
Right.
Usually, whatever, you don't see the other side. That's the point. This metaphor sees both sides and says, actually, the world is going to be pretty stinky and also pretty good.
The glass is half full and is half empty.
And is half empty.
You can choose to add a drop of water or to take a sip.
Exactly, right? Like, that's one thing that I think is provocative. The second thing that I think is provocative is that doesn't let you off the hook.
Right.
Because, to be honest, I'm tipping the scale. You may be tipping the scale in the other way at the same time. Somebody else tipping the scale. It's like this idea here, what are they trying to do? They're trying to tell you you have responsibility in a world that you largely don't control, right? Now, if everybody thought this way, I do think the world would be a better place. Don't you think?
If everyone kept Shabbos.
I'm saying,
no,
if
100%, 100%.
thought this way, if everybody said, I have a weighty responsibility, right? I don't think that's the way most people think. I think the way most people think is they feel frustrated that they can't do anything about the big problems. And so like, okay, so I'm gonna go to a rally. Who's that gonna help?
Right.
Right? But there's something here that's being suggested, and I don't think it's just what we call virtue ethics, where, oh, you have to be a virtuous person. I think it's actually trying to say, there's like a butterfly effect in the world.
Right.
You do good, you inspire good. You do bad, you inspire bad. And I don't even think that's what it's saying, but that's the way I would maybe think about it, not just in a metaphysical way. Right. Right?
Yeah.
And it's so simple. So here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Okay? As a practitioner. You are, in your private life, of course, you engage people individually and you're going to try to be your best self and you're But this is not one drop, this JBS situation. This is an avalanche of good deeds or bad deeds, good narratives, bad narratives. I'm wondering for yourself, what do you think the role of media in helping people move towards the good, right? Like both the role of media in terms of JBS in helping people move towards the good, right? And the role of media in general, what you're seeing. Like, let's just talk about it a little bit. I'm curious your thoughts.
Wow, okay.
Because you're such a, personal musar, personal character, but like, this is not just personal.
Yep, I love that. I do, you said a lot, so I want to respond to a little bit of the stuff you said in the beginning, and then I'll tackle the question you're asking me.
Yeah, do it all.
First, I want to add a third layer, which I talked to Herzl Hefter a little bit about when he was on, which was like, there's also, I think, especially I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Everyone, Everywhere, All at Once.
I think I have.
Just the idea of the multiverse, like those kinds of things, right? So there also is a world where like, everything's even because you're actually the center of your mini universe in some ways. And so like leaning into that and being like, actually there are scientists who feel this way. Like it could be that the whole thing is like, you know.
Oh, I once heard Neil deGrasse Tyson say this, that there are multiple, I don't know the right words.
Yeah,
but they each have their own centers of gravity. No, I don't know what any of that means.
Right, so in that world.
But I also don't know what any of what you just said means because I'm not mystical like that.
Right. I don't think it has to be mystical. I think it's scientific for people.
No, but I'm saying, like, what does it mean to be in the center of your world?
Right.
Meaning you're saying you're impacting your sphere.
I don't even mean like practically. I mean like it could be that like I'm being plugged into some sort of universe where I'm the only.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, I'm out.
We'll go there. Fine. All right.
No, but I think that's good. I think that's beautiful.
Right.
I just don't subscribe to it.
Right.
I don't believe in the multiverse.
Let me. That'll be all right. We have to talk about the draft, and we have to talk about the multiverse. This is why you need to come on all the time. And Shabbat.
Correct.
So I'll say I do, and that you're having me skip over the personal, but I want to say the personal briefly, which I think is like. Three themes, which I'll say come up. I'll say them briefly though. One is, I think of like in Brachot, where it says like Hakol b'dei Shamayim chutz miyirat Shamayim. Everything is in the hand of God, aside from yirat.
Fear of God.
The fear of God or awe of God.
That's a choice
So I think
make.
so there's one lane of this which is literally like, it's about your mindset, and it's about your mindset, and then like if you're acting in a way where you're behaving from a place of awe of God, you are impacting the world. Because if we lived in, our vision of the end of days is a world where everyone has awe of God. That's what we're moving towards, where there's a moment of recognition.
What if you do bad things in the name of God?
Then I think you're kidding yourself. I mean, that's, by the way, that's the Muslim movement. That's one of the strands of the Muslim movement is like, how do you have checks on yourself to make sure you think you're doing good things, but how do you have a peer network and people that you're working with in a Musrva that are saying back to you, actually that thing you think is good is
okay, but we live in such an echo chamber.
Yeah,
it's like,
fine. So that's all right.
No, but I love this because
Yeah.
what you're also doing is you're attacking the question of how do you know what's good?
That's its own whole thing.
And
obviously.
you're saying mindset is a big part of that. And I'm
Right.
saying, but you have mindset people who do things that are bad. And you're like, well, who gets to decide
Well,
what's
I
good
think
and what's bad?
there's an element, I mean, I think part
By
of
the
it
way,
is...
that's media.
Yeah.
Media gets to tell you what's good and what's bad.
Exactly. All right, so let's...
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were trying to talk.
No, and
I can let that happen.
I want to be sensitive to time. I'll put my others aside. I'll say that like...
Don't put them aside.
Fine. The last thing I'll say is that there's an element, when we think about the step forward or step back, there's a beautiful essay by Rav Eliyahu Dessler, a British 19th century, I guess, called the Nekudat HaBechira, the choice point. Yeah, the choice point, where he basically uses the metaphor of what then an army, like when it was a ground war, not to bring up, that's traumatic right now a little
it's
bit.
okay,
But
yeah.
this idea that basically every
I'm
person...
scared mostly of missiles, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, every person is placed on the field based on your nature and nurture. You find yourself somewhere on the field.
Yeah.
And every time you make a positive choice, you take a step forward. And every time you make a bad choice, you take a step back, right? And it's so real. Like we have that idea, like, a mitzvah leads to another mitzvah, a sin leads to another sin.
Yeah.
So this idea of like actually within your world, it's actually, I would say it's like objectively true in some ways if you think about it. That like, once you, the example he gives, I think, is smoking a cigarette or something like that. Like the more, and that's complicated because it's like chemical, but like, the more you make the good choice, eventually you don't even think about that choice anymore. It's just part of who you are. And the more you make the bad choice, it just becomes part of who you are also, and you've moved backwards.
So then do you think that it's unfair to say everything is perfectly balanced and and at every moment you're deciding whether to tip yourself to good or tip yourself to bad?
So I think
do you think it's a different kind of approach?
He's saying exactly that. I think he's saying that
Really?
he's saying like in any given moment, you don't have endless choices. In any given moment, you have the choice of that second, and nothing else that's behind you or that's in front of you. One example he gives is someone walks into a store. For one person, it's like whether or not I should rob the store. For the other person, it's like because they were raised by thieves.
Sure.
The other person is if I get caught robbing the store, do I use a gun to get myself out of it? The other person is like if I get too much change, do I remember to give the change back? The other person is, do I smile? Right. So the same like when I meet the person. So depending on where you are, the scales are equal. The scales are equal in your life. You have a choice whether to do the step forward or the step back, and that affects everything else after that.
So it's interesting because one of the things that I think the scale model and what you're talking about have in common is that instead of focusing on the global, it's actually saying to you, try to focus on what you can decide right now. Try to make good decisions. And those good decisions will have big impact. Now yours is it'll have big impact on you getting better and getting it.
And the world.
The scales, I think the scales is there's a little bit of a zero sum of it, of you're either tipping it to bad or you're tipping it to good. But I do think that in a moment like this, we do need to focus on the things that we can do.
Yes.
Right? Like we actually need to
100%.
focus on the things that we can do. But I don't want to relegate that to the realm of, individual actions in your home. Even though I think if you're great on the global stage and you're a jerk in your home, we have a problem.
You missed it. I think that's part of this, not everyone who's in power is bad at home, of course, obviously.
Of course.
But there's an element. I just saw Zusha perform at the Ishai Rebo concert upstate
fun.
in Bethel Woods. Amazing night. I don't want to quote him perfectly.
Did you see my parents?
I did not see your parents.
I can't believe you didn't see my parents.
I'm sorry. But the lead singer of Zusha, I forget his, I think it's Shimon, if I'm not mistaken, but tall guy, lead singer of it.
Okay.
Like in the middle of one of the songs, it was beautiful. The whole set was beautiful. But he just said something along the lines of like, be nice to your family. He kept saying it over and over again. Be nice to your family.
Yeah.
Be nice to your family. Just like reminding people to do that. So I do think
100%.
that's not, okay. But now,
by the way, it's not just that. It's in times of stress and global stress,
Yes.
you're actually meaner to the people around you. 100%.
By the way,
domestic violence in Israel has gone up.
Yes.
People are traumatized.
Yes.
People are coming back from the front. There's so much, right? Like, actually, under more stress, you're meaner to the people who care about you most. But I still don't want to get stuck in the only way you can do something that matters is if it's only in your small, because you're sitting in front of a bunch of cameras now.
Yes, great. So let's talk about that.
So let's talk about it.
Let me add an example of what you just said.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect example. It was I think it was a Friday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. We had the terrible attack in Colorado where the people were they were continuing their silent protests week after week, and someone set them on fire. Terrible. I remember
my colleague's husband was there.
Right. Oh, really?
And treated.
Yeah. So I have a good friend
somebody.
who is a member of that community. Knew every single person there.
Terrible.
So this just bring us right into what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was close to Shabbos, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a Friday. Maybe I'm wrong. Whatever it was. Maybe it was a Sunday. But I checked my WhatsApp and someone sent a video of that, right? And I clicked because I was like, "What's going on?" And like, I think I was in the middle of like with my kids, blah blah blah, and I just opened my phone and like. I was a disaster. Like I was mean to my kids. I was just like short-tempered, all these things.
Yep.
And it took me like 3 hours to unpack the fact that I, without choosing, had trauma put in my face.
Yep.
Right? It messed up all my things. It set me off. I had no chance to process it or to think about it. I was taking out on other people without realizing it. Like I think it was Friday because I remember I think I was late for Shabbat dinner. I missed sure like all these things went wrong, and I just like realized like like we're living in a world now that like it's just a total mess. And the way the media is set up, of course, I think of the example of the O.J. Simpson. Maybe there's stuff before that, but like where people realize like this could be entertainment, and like the more extreme it is, the more people watch. And now obviously in today's era. It's even more extreme, right? Now it's like the loudest people are the people we think are speaking for the middle, and they're not usually.
Yeah.
And everyone's trying to say things that make you upset and share videos that'll be triggering or all those kinds of words. And so I think to get to your question, and I'm finally answering it, I think the way I think about this, particularly, I'm blessed to serve in this role at JBS. I'm trying to do my best with it.
Yeah.
I think that the things, some of the themes that come to mind for me, one is trying to not stoke anxiety and trying to allow people to have a healthy, deep, meaningful, spiritual, intellectual, whatever you want, experience.
Yeah.
And when I get emails from people being like, I used to watch Fox News all day or CNN News all day, and now I watch JBS all day. And we have news, where we're not hiding from what's going on in the world, but we're not saying 24/7 you need to keep up with every single detail, because that mathematically, objectively, scientifically creates more anxiety for people, 100%.
It's so interesting because you're also saying it isn't just recognizing that you don't have a lot of control and then giving up. It's actually continually fueling the sense of powerlessness because you're just watching things that you can't control, that you don't have a way to process, that you don't have. And actually, in some ways, that's becoming the lack of control. And then you forget about the things that you can do and the things that you should do. Right? Early in the war, I was talking to people about how incredible it was that E-Jewish Philanthropy kept running articles about ways that people were helping. So this philanthropist gave this sum to a group on the Gaza border in order to help them. Meaning it was actually all, what can you do, right? And I think in some ways we are on our back foot and saying, well, what can we do, right? And it's sort of like, no, what can we do? And like you're saying, the choice to try to do in the face of pretty intense odds, right? that's what it takes for people to actually think that way and do that way and be that way. And in some ways, you're trying to fortify people to be able to do that, right? You're not leading an activist channel where you're saying to people, I want you to go in this direction. You're basically trying to fortify people in who they are Jewishly and ask, okay, so what do you want to do in the world? There are a lot of forces acting upon you. What is the force that you want to give back into the world? Something like that.
Beautiful. And I'll add a second layer to that, which is in addition to trying to just like not stoke anxiety, is recognize that we as a people, certainly since the Holocaust, have put so much economy into, let's call it fighting anti-Semitism, canceling anyone who's coming against us, political fighting, all those things, which I think are super important. We're not here without the people that have like shaped politics and like
correct,
and advocated for us. But at the same time, like I think the average American Jew lost their other birthright. It was the birthright of going to Israel, but the birthright of their Jewish identity. Because if 98% of the content they're consuming has to do with keeping up with what's happening in Washington or what's happening in Israel. But, to refer back to Shabbat, no one has ever explained to them what Shabbat is, or no one has ever told them Jewish history. We did a 2-hour series with Ken Spiro where he just did all of Jewish history in 2 hours. And I got all these emails and text messages and notes just being like, I went to Jewish day school. I didn't know Jewish history, right? I'm in the Jewish community, or the David Aaron's on and someone's like, I've met President Bush on behalf of the Jewish people, and I've never thought about my relationship with God.
Well, so it's so interesting, two things, and I know we have to finish up. Two things. One, I want to give you a lot of credit because I think in a certain way as an educator, because I feel like I'm an educator for the Jewish people, I'm very careful about sharing my own belief system too explicitly. And what's interesting about you is that you share your own belief system very explicitly, but without a sense that, you're foisting it, but with a sense that you have vision, which I think is very interesting, just in terms of a question of control and influence. It's not control over others, it's actually control of yourself, which is just an interesting thing. Just because I noticed when you said we're all going to the ultimate is knowledge of God, we're all, right? Meaning, there's a channel where a lot of different people watch this, right? Some people agree with that, some people.
No, and by the way,
and also, this is what you believe.
And sorry, the third piece, I just want to make sure I say that, which is that we're like a deeply pluralistic channel. That's what's beautiful.
Exactly.
Is right. You could have.
Well, so that's
1 hour later, someone say the exact opposite.
So
what I'm saying, which is important.
So that's the second thing that I was going to say is that I think that what you're doing is you're basically, remember the orientations we said to Judaism from before? There's history, culture, law, philosophy, all sorts. You're basically saying, bring it on, everybody. That's what we can control. What we can control is who we become as people, as Jewish people, and you want this channel to be part of that.
And I think we owe it to ourselves to be exposed to the best of what the Jewish people have to offer, instead of spending our time kind of just getting sucked into people who are making money by making us anxious, if that makes sense.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, it's a good segue to texting because Torah and anxiety.
Yes.
Let's actually do something affirming and constructive with it.
Yes. All right, Elana, we're out of time as always. I want to say thank you so much. Viewers and listeners, check out Texting, JBS on Tuesdays, and also wherever you watch YouTube or get your podcasts. We are so thrilled to finally have you regularly on JBS, not only on my show, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Great. Thanks for having me. What a joy.